Good morning, everybody. It's Positive Tuesday today, January 23rd, 2024. I can't hear our... Ooh, that's bad. For Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald, I'm Ben Dryden, and you're watching Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy, presented by Professional Exteriors and Interiors. With 20 years of experience, this locally owned and operated business provides quality work both on the inside and on the outside of your home or business. Like Fitzy and I, they believe it's the little things that make a big difference. Give them a call today. See what they can do for you. The number's right there on the screen, 715-520-2271. Fitzy, I've been saying that number so much. I actually had to call Brian last week about something. And I'm like, oh, what's his phone number? What am I talking about? 715-520-2271. Stuck in my... I'm never going to forget that phone number.
Probably going to do some roofs this week as warm as it is, man.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I can't wait to hear the weather report from Dirk this morning. That's going to be fantastic.
That's right.
Hey, how have you been?
Good.
Nope.
That's it.
Okay, Nick Milroy. Give me something. I heard that you were gone.
I was gone yesterday.
Just yesterday?
Just yesterday.
Oh,
well, I went Sunday, but yeah.
And it was for a talk about something. You know what? Let's get into that. Get into it, but I want to find out because I don't actually know what you were doing. But I know you were somewhere giving a talk about something. I don't know what it is. We'll do that after. We always start with our sports stuff.
Okay.
So my question for you is just instead of going through each game from the last playoffs game, I'm just wondering which game result surprised you the most? 49ers over the Packers, Chiefs over the Bills, Ravens over the Texans, or the Lions over the Bucks? Which one surprised you the most?
I don't know. I mean, the Packers put up a good fight. They lost on a field goal. I mean, they didn't lose. They would have tied. I mean, but that would have put pressure on San Francisco. I think the Packers had the best game. The Chiefs-Bills was close. I mean, that came down to a field goal too. The Ravens walloped them, and the Lions came back too. So really good football minus the Ravens-Texans.
And that was tied up at halftime, 10-10. So, of all four games, they were all close with the exception of one half of one game.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was some great football. It's heartbreak when a field goal kicker misses it, but you can't always blame it on the field goal kicker.
No, and it's not. One play is not. That doesn't. Right. I mean, there were so many missed opportunities for the Bills that game. But I could never be a field goal kicker just from the anxiety alone, and then the pressure of that, and then if you miss it, like everybody pretty much hates you at that point. And then forget about every other missed call or bad throw, but it's just that one. Oh.
And the running back should have made 2 more yards on the run, and somebody should have blocked better to get him 2 yards closer. So it's not – you got to think about it as a team sport. Good coaching will bring it home to a team sport, but you pay these guys big money to make kicks like that, and it's not like they were 55 yards. It was,
it was a 47-yarder.
Bad. I mean,
that
was a bad miss. I mean, you had it. You take the lead. You put a lot of pressure on them to maybe not go down and score the touchdown. I mean, the Packers had the game. It sucked.
Yeah, I mean, Deebo Samuel. I mean, he's like Tyreek Hill for the Dolphins. He wasn't playing that game, and when he went out right away, I'm like, that's not good. The 49ers are not the same team without him. In terms of biggest surprise of the 4 games, there really wasn't one. Right? I mean, 49ers beating the Packers, that didn't really surprise me. The Chiefs over the Bills, that could have gone either way, as we just talked about. Ravens over the Texans, let's face it. Ravens, I mean, they should have won by as much. Lions over the Bucks, either team winning, I guess, have been surprised, but I'd been more surprised if the Bucks won because the Lions are doing well, and I love Dan Campbell, their head coach. There really wasn't a big surprise, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but I'm glad that the scores were closer than the first round because that was stupid. Those are all blowout games.
Yeah, so which 2 of the games left, where's the biggest – who do you want to win? I mean, what's the better Super Bowl matchup?
Oh, Super Bowl match. Well, if we're talking storylines, it's got to be the Lions, right? Over the 49ers. I mean, duh.
Right.
I mean, they were 0-10 2 years ago to start the season.
That means that your guy can't get the MVP then, Brock.
They should just give it to him anyway.
Yeah, I think he probably
gets it. So you're referencing Brock Purdy, the quarterback of the 49ers. I said at the very beginning of the year, I'm all in on the 49ers this year. They have the best team. Brock Purdy's, Hall of Fame. Oh, yes. 100% agree tomorrow. Dan Campbell is legit. If you are just ever looking for something to watch, you're bored and you're on YouTube, just do Dan Campbell press conference and watch all of them. That dude is so passionate for his players. I mean, talk about a leader. I love that guy. That guy is awesome. But so, yeah, Lions, that'd be by far the better storyline. And the other one, what would that be?
That'd be the Chiefs-Ravens.
Chiefs-Ravens. Well, I mean, Lamar Jackson's legit, but I don't know a ton of, like, diehard Ravens fans outside of Baltimore. So I would say Chiefs just because of Patrick Mahomes is one of the most known and respected and liked and popular quarterbacks. Then you throw in Travis Kelce and his girlfriend, whatever her name.
Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl? That's got to be the storyline right there.
Yeah. So there you go. There's my answer. It's got to be the Lions and the Chiefs. What?
Taylor Swift, will she go to the Super Bowl or not if he makes it?
I don't know. She should be performing. Who is performing this year?
It's a good question.
It's going to be in Vegas. Oh, I think it's in Vegas. I think it's Usher. They've been having terrible. That's what we should do next week. That's it. No, it's if you could pick one band. So it wouldn't be your favorite band, but one band. Yeah, it is Usher. That's what I thought. To be in the Super Bowl. Alive or dead. Maybe they're all, whatever. Like Peter Gabriel, I heard, put on a great show, but he's also like 80. So I'm not sure that's a good one.
MC Hammer, we could have a little rap.
MC Hammer, yes! Oh, MC Hammer, that'd be fantastic.
That's all I could come up with quick.
All right, so we have quite a bit to get to today. We'll start all of that and find out where in the world was Fitzy yesterday. Apparently Iowa.
Iowa.
So, yeah, we'll get to all that in 15 seconds after a word from Spooner Health.
Compassion is at the center of everything we do. It's rooted in who we are and why we're here. It unites us as providers, neighbors, and as a community. Learn more at spoonerhealth.com.
All right, so you were gone, and I only know that because I requested a booking photo. Jill and I was copy you, and it got the auto reply that you were gone. I'm like, what? What's going on? So where did you go?
I had to go to Iowa and give a talk with the FBI on the Claus case. So we talked to the state of Iowa, all the sex crime investigators, administrators that run sex crime units in the state. More on the FBI side, not more on my side, but we use the Claus case as an example. But they do a lot of things outside of the Claus case, talking about sex offenders and how to interview them and how to, they're profilers. I worked with the two profilers from Quantico, who I spoke with, and it was really their talk. I was kind of the sideshow, but ended up being more. We talked a lot about the Claus case and how we did, why we did, and then they'd go break off and talk about different kinds of crimes and how they profile them and how they statistics and things like that.
Did you? Because sometimes meetings or events like this, it's you're there. It was fine. Or was there something that you kind of learned there or never thought about before? And maybe it's just how they kind of process some things at the FBI. Was there any big takeaways for you? Or, most of the stuff I kind of knew. That sounds arrogant, but you know what I mean? It's like we didn't really get into like new techniques or something. Was there kind of a takeaway?
No, yeah, I think so. You look at some of their stats they give on child porn cases and things like that. Nothing to do with the Claus case, but they talk a little bit about child porn cases and victimology and the criminology behind the act. So a little bit on that, and about the type of child porn kind of leans back to sexual assaults and things like that. What
you mean sexual assaults like the who?
The type of victim you choose is obviously based on the type of
I see
pornographic material that you view for the most part. And then it's sick to talk about, but that gets into some of the criminology. And again, It has nothing to do with why I was there. They do a separate, like a 2-hour talk that I sat through on crimes that they investigate besides assisting us. And then a little bit was on case management that's why I was there. How do you manage a major case? And so mine wasn't detailing our crime. It was how do you manage a major case and why did ours go so well? And who are partners that we brought in to work with, and how did we work with these partners. So mine was on case management, not so much on their topic.
Is it Casual Tuesday today for you too? Is that a sweatshirt?
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen you just in a sweatshirt.
Oh,
Is that our Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy sweatshirt? Yeah, buddy. That's awesome.
Yeah, I got nothing else today, so
aw.
So I decided why not.
I just wrote down, I want to actually, in a little bit here, because we have a few other things to get to, but I have noticed something that I would refer to as at least for me, a very disturbing.
Well, let's talk about it.
Let's get through a couple of other things. I do want to have a discussion. I want to ask you, this is normally something that I would actually just call you on your cell phone and we just have like a 10-minute chat. But You know what? We're just going to do it live and whatever. But I want to get to an announcement or kind of an announcements. If you wouldn't mind going through some of these, I sent you the list, and actually you were the one that sent me the list. You talked about it last week about possibly having some guests on. And it looks like we have 3 guests coming up in the next 5 or 6 shows, starting on February 6th. Who's coming on February 6th?
Well, so next week we're going to talk about our stats, because you'll get those on Thursday after our law enforcement meeting. So we'll have our end of the year stats and our goals for 2024. And then the next week after that,
show. Love. Favorite show of the year. Love that.
Big show next week. Nothing real surprising, but we'll see. And then on February 6th, we're going to talk about the Benjamin House. A lot of people don't understand what the Benjamin House does. So I have our executive director, Jen Mason, coming on the show to talk about the Benjamin House and the services they provide, and some of the, some of the rumors out there, some of the things that say, oh, we have homeless people from Tennessee living here. And so we're going to talk a lot about that. And you can ask a lot of good questions because you don't know nothing about it.
I really don't.
So, right. And then
wait, hold on a second. So how are we doing these? Is this going to be like they're going to be the guests on for the full 45 minutes, or is it like a good 15 minutes with
I would say
guest?
15, 20 minutes.
Okay.
It's going to be the first part of the show. We'll probably maybe even skip the sports and go right into it. So doing it at 8:30, we'll have a guest on for the first half of the show, maybe longer. If it keeps going, we don't care.
Sure.
Hopefully there's no other press releases, and we'll talk about the Benjamin House.
Okay.
2 weeks later, we're going to talk about the Boys and Girls Club. We have an annual campaign. We need to raise some money. We're going to talk a little bit about our building project. Lori Zarbuck, our executive director, is going to join us and talk about the Boys and Girls Club.
And she's the executive director. What I had written down, what you said was executive director for the I'm sorry. For the Barron County Boys. Now you say we. Is that the one you're on there? Yeah.
I serve on both of those boards with
that figures.
So, and then the next week, I think we have another week in between there.
Yeah, I think it's a couple weeks later. I have March 5th, Jennifer Jaco, but that's all I wrote down. But who's this?
She's the ADRC director for Barron and Rusk counties. She's going to talk about Meals on Wheels and how many Meals on Wheels. You'll be shocked at the number. I want you to guess how many Meals on Wheels we deliver a day in Barron County. I don't know the number, so she'll tell you the number. So
that's going to be great. Well, hopefully she gives multiple choice.
You don't need multiple choice. So
all right.
I'm shocked, but I know the number. It's a really good thing, and they're looking for some help. And I said, hey, I can go reach out to, if we get one person to help off this show, it's a bonus for Barron and Rusk County and to help people, and why it's so important, Meals on Wheels. And I just think it's a unique program. It's not unique. It's a neat program that helps a ton of people, and we need more volunteers. So I think
I'm glad you're doing this.
Yeah.
No kidding. I mean, we've had some guests on before, but a lot of them, it's going to be the Kirk Anderson or the people that we know. Certainly our very good friend, Mike Schaefer.
Right.
But it's kind of, I'm excited because I always like getting to know somebody else, either as an individual or the organization. So February 6th will be Benjamin House. February 20th is Lori Zarbuck. Yeah. And then Meals on Wheels, it's going to be Jennifer Jaco on March 5th. Also, just on a side note, again, you and I should probably talk a little bit more offline because I'm like asking you questions that I should probably just text her at. But yesterday, former Attorney General Brad Schimmel is judge down in, I think, Waukesha. I think he's running for Supreme Court. He had asked if he could come on, for 15, 20 minutes. And so, we don't really get into politics a whole lot. We try not to. So this isn't like a campaign thing. But if you want to come on and have a discussion about something, sure. What do you think? I mean, that's pretty legit. It'd be kind of nice to have him on. What do you think?
Brad's our friend. I mean, Brad was a
Brad.
huge supporter of law enforcement. I'll take anybody that supports law enforcement on this show any day of the week and talk about what's going on in the southern part of the state. What's the political climate down there? We may have to have Mike Schaefer back on because there's a big hospital closing in Eau Claire. I'd like to know that affects Barron County. That has an direct effect on Barron County law enforcement because that means we're going to lose some beds for mental health. And now we have to do transports longer. Things like that people don't think about. Besides all those people losing their jobs, I just feel sick for those people losing their jobs. And Prevea is going to close. And how does that affect Mike Schaefer? How does that affect Marshfield Clinic and Mayo and Cumberland? And so that has some direct effect on law enforcement, that closing. So, Tom Tiffany's going to be here Thursday, I think, doing a town hall. We can't have hospitals closed. I know everybody talked about Marshfield, and, I think they'll come out of this okay, I hope. They do great work. I think it has to come with billing and insurance. I think that's why hospitals are in trouble. I think the government needs to step in and do something here. We can't have hospitals closed. We can't have we need more mental health beds. We can't lose mental health beds. That's going to jam up Eau Claire. It's going to jam up Chippewa Falls area law enforcement. It's going to jam up Barron County law enforcement. So all of those have an effect on things. So that's what I follow. I think that's why I asked these guests to come on, because I want people to be informed on, one, if they want to give money. We're always looking for donations. These are nonprofits we're talking about that need run on money. These are important issues to law enforcement. That's why I do this show. So it's sad that it's closing, but that has a direct effect. We talked about it this morning with my command staff. Has a direct effect on law enforcement in Barron Counny. It's gonna cost the taxpayers of Barron County more money to do more transports longer ways.
This is from a little while before. Shot says sometimes Meals on Wheels is the only daily contact. And elderly, I never thought about that. We're not just talking about the food aspect of it. What?
Yeah, Shasta hit it right on the head.
I never thought about that.
She's
just a human contact. That's crazy. Oh, I was on the phone yesterday ordering those new Verizon or those new Samsung 24 Ultra phones. So I was on the phone yesterday with Verizon person to get 4 of those, and we ended up talking for like 30 minutes about sports because he saw us from Wisconsin and asked about my Packers fan. I'm like, yeah, not really. I don't hate him or anything. I really like Jordan Love a lot more than Aaron Rodgers. He was a prima donna. Didn't care for him. So we ended up just talking for a while, and then I was asking questions as I usually do. And come to find out, he works from home. And a lot of the Verizon reps, when you call in, now work from home because after COVID, I was like, well, why go back? Because we can all just do this from home. And he goes, when we're finished with the call, he goes, by the way, thanks for this because, working from home, I don't get a lot of other interaction. I'm like, you know what? Ironically, me too. So I'm sitting here talking to the Verizon wireless guy for half an hour.
You're like, I have a new friend. I just call him every Tuesday.
That's awesome.
Well, maybe he wants to be on our show.
Yep. Oh, that would be kind of fun to have something like that. So, I mean, if there is a Mount Rushmore for like communities and what you need in terms of, I don't know if we want to call it infrastructure, but the basic kind of necessities and where you kind of put your money, it's got to be into your local government centers / jails, schools, absolutely. But if there is a Mount Rushmore, I don't know how you could keep hospitals off of it. I mean, that has to be, right? Schools and hospitals. I mean, this stuff you have to have these things.
Right. And how does city of Eau Claire, and I have no idea, maybe they can manage it, but how does the city of Eau Claire lose a hospital? I mean, that's a big building there that's been there for 100 years. And I get it's old and it probably needs some work, but I'm sure it's been remodeled a couple times, but I don't get it. So
yeah, and you're right, Renee. A lot of people are going to be. She put in later, affected, not infected. Going to be affected with those hospitals closing. Yeah, and what was it called? Prevea? I live in Eau Claire. I don't remember that one.
No, Prevea is the Rice Lake Hospital that's closing. Or
What's the one in Eau Claire? Mitchell's. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which one?
Is St. Joe's and HHC or whatever it's called.
Oh, all right.
Can't remember now. Now I gotta look because now it'll bug me. It's Sacred Heart Hospital in St. Joe's in Purveyor. Yeah.
I've been there several times. Holy cow.
HSHS Sacred Heart St. Joe's and Purveyor clinics are closing their doors in the Chippewa Valley.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, Renee, thank you for confirming, for fact-checking Fitzy.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, right. I couldn't get Sacred Heart out.
Goodness, that place is... I thought they just remodeled like a decade ago.
Right.
Well, whatever.
It looks pretty nice. I see a picture of it here on Facebook.
Yeah, right off Claremont, if I remember.
Right. Exactly. That's the one. Maybe the college will, I don't know. Hopefully another medical organization comes in and says, we can manage. I don't know. Maybe there's no money in healthcare. I don't know why. I don't understand it. We've got to do something to protect them, protect these jobs, protect these businesses, protect, they do a lot.
So have you already figured out in that event how that would, you said this could and or potentially will.
It will
affect law enforcement in Barron County. And I look at Barron County like I look at all of the 6 counties that we cover. We're all in that same boat where we have to go to Eau Claire, Superior, Twin Cities, etc. Give us, and we can get into this some other time.
Yeah.
But what is like a real life scenario here, and how this could impact? Is this it's going to cost you more money? Is that like transporting further away?
Yeah, and they don't have a lot of mental health beds, but once in a while we get lucky and we have a mental health bed in Eau Claire, which means a transport from Barron to Eau Claire to take our person to get some mental health treatment and back. Which otherwise it's we got to go to 5 hours away is the next closest one. So if we get lucky, we get a short transport, works out better. Otherwise it's a 5-hour, 10-hour round trip to get somebody some mental health help. So that's a big deal. So
well, Shasta says Eau Claire will be fine, but Rice Lake is going to take a huge hit. Mayo Cameron closed, and Purveyor, Rice Lake, and Cumberland are closing. Didn't know that.
Yeah, they have and Purveyor has a lot of small clinics, and I don't know if that's the theory. Everybody went to we went to all these small cities and put a small clinics in. Maybe that was, we built too fast, and we should have stayed just in one location, but we tried to make it easier for people to, drive and get hometown health care. So that sucks. But that's got to put but I don't know. I don't understand it quite all yet.
Yeah, and the one show that Mike Schaefer isn't watching, of course, is what I'm waiting for him to comment, but he's
he's probably pretty busy because I would guess, there's people looking for nurse jobs, doctor jobs, support jobs. I mean, all these people, and if he has openings, he wants some of those people. Yeah. Some of these but some of these people might have to drive. Then it's stressful on people, and that's not good. So I just feel bad. It sucks. So,
you were doing a safety council last week?
Spoke last week, and safety council. Yeah, with insights on the 3M incident. We met with a bunch of safety people last week. So that was really good. They have a group of factories and big businesses that get together, and their safety officers talk about safety things and what we did at 3M, why we handled it, what could their business do if that incident happened there with the false active shooter calls or things like that. So I met with our schools last week on email about a false active shooter calls happening in northern Minnesota, just so they were aware of it. Email is great. It's a way to communicate effectively with some of our, what I would consider command staff, our superintendents, our businesses like they had, our safety directors at some of these big businesses. We're going to start touring these big businesses. Something we're not doing. Every time we have a SWAT training in 2024, we're going to tour a business, whether it's in Russ County or Barron County. We're going to tour these big factories, so at least 10 or 12 of our people get the layout of them. So because I've been in 3M because I've gotten a tour of that before, but I've never been in some of the cheese factories and some of these other factories I've never been in.
I never thought about that. That's brilliant.
So we're going to start touring some of these factories and businesses, and they want us to be there. They want a fast response. They don't want to have to tell us, and they've got to number their doors better. So, because I don't know where the big machine that stamps the concrete is, I don't know where that is, but I know where door 2 is. And when I find door 1 and door 3, I can find door 2, So we talked a lot about that, and we had some great discussion last week. And I think there was 19 safety directors there, and it was multiple counties, Burnett Cheese, it was all the way up to Burnett County, and they meet at our tech college, and I just happened to be the speaker. I try to speak at it once a year. So get out and do some of that stuff. That's the interaction to make, thank them for the support that these businesses give law enforcement, from the Claus case to the tornado. These are the businesses that came and said, hey, you guys are doing a great job. Here's some, have some lunch on us or whatever it is. So, and we have to do that same thing. We have to come out, a lot of people, we almost closed the Benjamin House. I've been on that board for 15 years. We almost closed the Benjamin House. In fact, we did close it for a very, very short time. And then people said, no, we need that. I think we have to do the same thing with our hospitals, whether it's our legislatures, our counties, or cities, whoever has to get involved here to say, no, we're going to keep our hospitals doing what they do for our community because they're needed. They're needed. So we may need to step up and say, oh, it's not. You can't just say it's too bad and leave it at that. So
Yeah.
Our legislatures might have to step up, and that's a Romaine and a Tom Tiffany question and some Dave Armstrong question and that. So
Well, I have Romaine coming on this Thursday for his monthly chat. I think this is he always comes on the last Thursday of the month. I think this Thursday is the last Thursday of the month. And I wrote it down to ask him about hospitals and about Eau Claire. I don't think that's in his district, but still. But that is going to impact the 20. What's that?
Talking about the Republican Party, too.
Yeah.
Well, they had some interesting things over the weekend, so.
We'll get all that on Thursday. Yeah.
We got to be careful, though.
Jeepers, apparently. I do have a quick follow-up here, just because it was last week we talked about, it was a Barron PD thing, and we talked about it last week, but there was we have another article about that same one. It's an insider article. Our headline was, arrest warrant issued and charges filed against second suspect in a violent Barron burglary. Another criminal complaint has been filed in Barron County charging a second individual with involvement in the violent burglary incident that resulted in charges against Ryan Carpentier. That's the person we talked about last week. Online circuit court records show that criminal charges have also been now filed against a Ricardo Dominguez, age 40, of Inner Grove Heights, Minnesota. Anyone, there's an arrest warrant issued for this individual. Anyone with information on his whereabouts may contact Barron County Sheriff's Office at 715-537-3106. Or I think there's an 800 number, 800-532-9008. Again, this isn't your sheriff's office case, but anything you want to add to it, it's obviously an ongoing thing. But simply because we talked about it last week, I figured we should do a follow-up.
No, I think Mr. Carpentier will be here sometime later this week. He's being transported. I don't know when that transport is, but he'll be in our jail so he can be charged locally. We'll see what his bond will be. I expect to have very high cash bond. I don't expect him to leave here. And then we'll get Mr. Dominguez. We'll get him on his warrant wherever he is in the world, in the United States. I shouldn't say world, wherever he is in the United States, and we'll bring him back here to face his charges. And they're obviously innocent until proven guilty, but I think you can tell by the criminal complaint, which we had to do this a little bit different than we've done normal cases. We talked a little bit about that. This has had to come this way to get arrest warrants for these people based on the information. Barron PD did a tremendous job by the Barron Police Department to get all this done and protect the citizens that they served.
Yeah, so actually, good morning, Kirk. Our good friend Kirk Anderson, who is running for mayor, again, re-election, St. Croix Falls. So,
has he got an opponent?
I don't know. It doesn't matter. He'll win.
Doesn't matter.
Seriously, it really doesn't. I actually was just talking to somebody recently about what you were referencing, that there was an arrest warrant, and oftentimes they're trying to, if you're looking for somebody, but they don't live in the state anymore, how do you go about getting an arrest warrant, a nationwide arrest warrant? So then if they get pulled over in Arizona, they see that there is an arrest warrant, and kind of what that process is. Is that what you're referring to when it's this person gets arrested? I think it was in Missouri or Tennessee.
Yeah, Missouri. He got arrested.
That's the one. There was a nationwide arrest warrant, so a judge has to go in, and just like a search warrant, you have to present the stuff to a judge, and the judge has to sign off on this. Do you do that often, and do you have success with that, or sometimes judges are like, no, you don't have enough?
No, very few times do we. I don't know. I mean, very few times does the judge say we don't have enough, because we don't play that game. We don't, at Barron PD, did the case completely before they went and did this to make sure they had enough. And because they had to release some of the information that you have here, because they needed enough to get that arrest warrant, they couldn't just say, we know it's Ryan, we got our reasons, but sign this piece of paper. That's not how it works.
Got it.
You just can't say, I want to arrest Ben Dryden, but I got to have a reason to arrest him. And the reason has to be chronological. It has to be factual. It has to be, what evidence do you have? Why do you have this evidence? So-and-so saw them. So-and-so did this. So-and-so said, they told me they did it, etc. And you can't just have hearsay either. It has to go into it. But yeah, so no, perfect example of police work at its finest, in my opinion. And we'll get the bad guys back here, and the other guy will get caught. So
good.
We'll be good to go.
Good. So since we do have a little time, I brought up earlier when you were talking about your talk that you gave in Iowa and listening to what they were talking about. So you and I have talked on the show about two things specifically. One is, we have like zero tolerance for anybody that harms a child, right? I mean, that's a no-brainer. It doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, LGBTQ, straight, married, male. It doesn't matter. None of this stuff matters. We can all get behind. Don't harm a child. Now, there's some words I'm going to use that I don't. They may be triggering. So if you're watching the replay, just fast forward a few minutes. But I'm referring to sex crimes against children. Now, that's not necessarily. I'm not talking about child pornography and viewing that stuff. That's a whole other thing. But actual sex crimes against a child. Typically, this is going to be someone like a family member. Usually, it's a male. Usually in their 40s, 50s. And usually it's a female, usually in their early teens. It's just kind of, if there is such thing as a typical, that's kind of a common thing. So we've been, the second thing is we've been talking about how we've been doing a lot more stories on that in the last year. We don't really seek these out, but I'm actually not seeing a whole lot of 5th, 6th, 7th OWIs like we did a couple of years ago. Why, I don't know, but
too cold.
Maybe that's it. Not as much, but law enforcement clearly is focusing on this, or maybe there's just more people doing this stuff. So we're doing a lot more stories on them. Well, now in this last year, because it takes a while for these cases to come to a conclusion, so it can take 6, 9, 12 months, sometimes more, but usually less than a year. Well, now all of a sudden, we're doing a lot of updated stories on these stories that we started doing early in the year. And I'm finding, it's my word, I'm going to use but it's just my opinion, a very disturbing amount are now that I see come to conclusion that we put in our insider stories on DrydenWire are with an imposed and stayed sentence. So if people remember what that is, if Joe Blow gets filed child sex crimes against this 13-year-old named Beth, whatever, they'll get like a 3-year sentence, and judges and lawyers and district attorneys love to say, yeah, 3 years. No, you didn't do any time in prison. It's imposed and stayed, which means you're on probation, and in the event that you violate your probation, it gets revoked. Then you serve the term. But that means what I see is 0 prison time. Mm-hmm. And I don't know where I want to go other than to have a discussion about, does that bother you at all? Because it's really, really disturbing to me that we're having, I mean, these kids are never going to be the same again. They're affected for the rest of their lives. Every relationship they have is going to be jaded. Not saying that they can't survive and they won't be fine. They certainly can and will. But the person who does this doesn't spend 1 day in prison. Does that bother you?
So let me tell you why I think that is, and I think you'll see it So I think it's not so much on the judge's fault. I mean, and sometimes we blame the judge. Sometimes you can blame the cop. Sometimes you can blame the DA.
I wouldn't put this on the judges.
Right. So, sometimes it is. I mean, sometimes you get a signed, sealed, delivered case and they don't get it for whatever reason.
True.
I think you're seeing some of these deals get cut, and it's because we're not in the courtroom for every second of every case.
Agreed.
And I think you're seeing some of these deals get cut so that the kid doesn't have to testify.
That is a very common reason for the plea deal, either that they don't have to testify or after 6 months they decide, I don't feel comfortable testifying, so they have to make a plea. Totally understand that.
Talk about it anymore. So then the DA is left to, well, if they push the case, if the bad guy pushes the case to a trial and my client doesn't want to testify, I'm going to lose the whole thing. or I'm going to take this deal because the client can change his mind and testify, and then it's pretty much a slam dunk, because I don't know a jury that says a kid gets up on the stand and says so-and-so did this to me, and it's just like, you're done. So you take the deal, and and so that you protect the victim. And we talked a lot about that yesterday in Iowa, during the first part of the case, about protecting the victim. And sometimes it's frustrating as law enforcement to say, I want to hammer this guy. I don't want to protect the victim. I want to hammer the guy so he doesn't do this again. I want him to go to prison for the rest of his life. Well, it's not a reality. Going to the prison for the rest of your life is not a reality. I mean, there's only been, in my 25 years, I think there's only been 2 or 3 people that have gone to prison for the rest of their life. Of all the crimes we've ever talked about, I mean, you can kill somebody with a car, you can commit a murder. Most of the murders that we've seen in Barron County, they're getting out of prison in the next few years, because they've sat.
Yeah, a lot of them, something like 10, 15-year sentences, right?
Right. So you can shoot somebody with a gun and only get 12 years. And so, and I don't know that that's right either, but that's a lot of it has to do with testifying, losing, taking a chance with a jury. Somebody feels bad that, they were both drunk or whatever, so I think you see some of these deals get taken because we're protecting victims.
And I would have no problem with that.
More than we think.
If the child victim is actually and again, I keep using victim, not survivor, just because that's how it's stated in the criminal complaint. We're talking about these type. Yeah, absolutely. So it's both. Like, more than one thing can be true at the same time. But if the alleged victim or survivor signs off on it, I got no problem with it. And I do think you're right. I think that happens more often than people realize. There's other factors that go into the reason for the plea. And if that's the case, then I'm fine with it. So I wonder if there is a way that, because a lot of times this stuff, if not all the time, that stuff isn't put in online records or court stuff. Maybe I'll start reaching out to district attorneys in these cases just to add that one part.
It's not. They're not going to tell you. They just like, we took a deal. They're not going to go into details about it, and they shouldn't go into details, because that's protecting. Our job is to 100%. Protect the victim.
Yeah.
And is the offender? Heather asked the question: is the offender learning a lesson?
Nope.
Well, to a degree, they are, though, because they get put on probation. They have rules they have to follow. They have somebody looking over their shoulder. We can search their internet. We can search their house. We can do different things. So, yes and no. I mean, I agree. It's not prison. It's not that, but there's and that's why that's why the media, sometimes it's the media that is the best punishment. We talk about that with OWIs. If we can stop somebody from drinking and driving because they don't want their picture on DrydenWire, then we've done our job. I mean, we don't do it to embarrass people. We don't do it to make fun. We don't do it to do whatever. So there's some of that. There's, it's raising awareness. And again, we're a half full kind of team here. If we do the little things, maybe it makes a big difference. And sometimes the little things isn't enough, and they should get the hammer. But that's not the reality of the world. Is that the hammer doesn't always fall.
And piggybacking on what you were saying about maybe this will prevent someone else from maybe doing this, or because they don't want to be in a jail booking report. They don't want to be on DrydenWire, us doing a story. But I think there's another component that I like to think, and I don't know if it's true or not. It's kind of like you were talking a few months ago about deterrence. How do you measure something that you're trying to that's a deterrent? There's no measurable there, right? You don't know if a cop is just running radar right in the middle on the road and everyone can see you, everybody slows down. Well, the point is to slow down traffic. How many accidents did that prevent? There's no way to measure that, like none. But I hope that another potential byproduct of doing these stories is that these child victims and maybe the mothers in these scenarios feel more comfortable to go to law enforcement. Because this isn't as no, we'll just hush, we don't want to say anything. Now, I don't know that stuff to be true, but if they feel more comfortable to call law enforcement, I think that's a benefit as well, right? It has to be.
And we've come up with a ton of advocacy, from Embrace to St. Croix Valley sexual assault. We've come up with a ton of advocates so that people feel more comfortable talking, because maybe they don't feel comfortable talking to law enforcement because of the media, because of a bad experience, because they just don't want to talk to somebody in uniform.
I understand.
we've come up with a lot of things. I think law enforcement has gotten better for the victim in the past 5-10 years than we've ever been.
Agreed.
And so, yes, that is a key point to this. And I think we've done a good job. I think you've done a good job of protecting the victims in these cases from online. We don't have to release their names. We don't release the names. We don't release details.
And we try to protect everything about them, not even their schools. If it's
correct. And the media has gotten better at that.
Yeah, and honestly, that all started that was years ago. We contacted like child victim and forensic interviewers and child victim services to here's our story. I've done everything I can do, I think, to protect the identity of the victim. And then they gave a lot of great feedback. Like, well, instead of saying, like, I'm just making something up here, that instead of an Amory middle school, just how about a Polk County middle school? So it's just that extra little step to try to protect it from anybody. Now, it's a small town. People are going to know. I get that. Well, that's always going to happen.
We're doing better at protecting, but it's not an Amory middle school that lives on Main Street.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Ron has a question. Says, hate to put you on the spot, Chris. What about repeat offenders still not seeing prison? Again, there's a lot of variables there, but that's a good point.
I agree. I mean, Ron knows he's the chief of tech, and he knows that it sucks for our repeat offenders. So, yes, some of that's on the DA, some of that's on our judges, some of that's on our juries. And yeah, we need to do a better job of that. So that's a complete case by law enforcement, making the push to our DA, making the push to our judges. So, I mean, it's a very good point that our repeat offenders need to go. And that's where maybe our legislatures need to have some more mandatory minimums.
That's a hot topic, right? I mean,
we're
mandatory
doing very
minimums
good with our child porn, but we're seeing viewers here, not production of child porn in Barron County. We're seeing people view and share, not even view. We're seeing people share. Viewing, not illegal. It's the sharing of it that's illegal. So,
Yeah, and many said, I agree. The victims are the ones, the survivors are the ones that carry the shame and the guilt throughout their lives. And that's, I guess that was really where I was going with it. And again, I completely understand and can appreciate that why some of these things are pled out. And more times than not, when they are pled out, or I shouldn't say more times than not, relatively often, it's going to be to protect that victim they don't want to, or that survivor they don't want to actually go and testify, or maybe times have changed and now maybe whatever the case may be, as long as that's what that individual is comfortable with, great. But for the other ones, no, that has to be, if you don't spend at least 1 year, like 1 year in prison minimum. I mean, that just has to be. There should be, and you can impose and stay another 5 years after that if you want. But man, come on.
But it's our job in law enforcement, to Ron's point there about repeat offenders, it's our job in law enforcement to make sure our victims are prepared to testify, that we only do this interview once, that we record the interview, and we all do that. All of our local law enforcement does that. So we've done a way better job of making sure they only tell their story once. We have the video of it. We can play that video. No one can change their story. So we've worked really hard to do that in law enforcement. I mean, Ron set up a room down there. They have a room. I mean, Cameron, everybody's got a room now that they can do interviews in. So law enforcement has done a better job of making sure our victims have to testify. Because, you can have a repeat offender all day, but if your victim doesn't testify, we're not going very far in this case. So you can't do a case without a victim, because everybody has the right to their accuser. That's the bad part about the law. So, well,
bad and good. I mean, depending on which filter you're looking at, but all right.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we have to deal with. Exactly right there, Shasta. I agree with you 100%. I mean, and that's why we try to videotape it. Hope we can use the videotape in some of the prelims.
That's smart.
But you can't, because you have to. The law states you have to. You have the right to face your accuser. So it sucks.
I know, but hopefully, are there situations, and by the way, thank you so much for having this conversation, and everyone that's actually participating in this. And again, I get it's heavy, but for some reason, it's just really been on my heart. It's just driving me nuts. But are there situations, though, where that individual that has to testify, that there is a possibility of like nobody else in the room kind of a thing, or there's maybe a wall? Is there something like that, like I see on TV kind of a thing?
No, not that I'm aware of. I mean, some of them, depending on their age, can have a closed court, when a kid testifies and they're underage and they close the court, but you still have attorneys and you still have the perpetrator in the room. You can't do it by yourself. I mean, you don't have to look at them, and we can protect them that way. So, but there doesn't have to be an audience. There's not cops. There's not, there's a court officer, and that's it in the room. So we've done a better job of doing that. The judges have, but you still have to face your accuser. You don't have to look at them. But the victim witness coordinators in our counties do a very good job of that. So that's what we have.
Larry Rosen says no sound. I don't know. I feel like we have sound. But if not, all right, so we'll put a button on it with this, Ron. It says, I believe we need to have mandatory prison. This gives the victim time to heal and feel safe while they get help. Ron, I'm 100%.
That's legislative, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's something else I could talk about.
To Ron's point, especially for the repeat offenders.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm sure it's 9:15. If we have if Dirk's still on, throw in your forecast. What do you have coming up this week, Fitzy?
Couple meetings. Couple meetings. That's about it.
I'm sorry. I do want to throw this in. That is
to some
oftentimes true. But again, it's just this
doesn't make it right.
Cycle.
But it's,
right, exactly. Then they do it to this person, and they're more likely to. It's just the worst.
Yeah, it does suck.
Oopsie. Where's the weather? Here we go. Hold on. We'll get to the weather. Look for a cloudy week, maybe some light. Rain Wednesday night and Thursday. Highs in the 30s. What? Warm in the middle.
40.
What?
Yeah.
Then lows 30s. May hit 40 this week. What the frick? I've shoveled like one time this year. I haven't even used my snowblower.
I've used mine, but it was embarrassing.
I did use it once just because I was lazy. I really didn't need to.
Yeah, that's right. Me too.
But again, thanks for having that difficult conversation.
No problem.
I know sometimes we talk about heavy stuff, but I think that stuff's worthy of a conversation. For me, I got a
job.
What?
Kenneth got a job.
Oh yeah, he's got a job at Economy. At Economy, so he works in the evening times usually.
So we got him that job too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, because of Ted Schmitz, and they're one of our advertisers. So I'm like, dude, just saying. Yeah. And I sent him a text. I'm like, I'm not saying you should hire him. I'm sure you don't do the interviews. Somebody else does. But what kind of a dad would I be if I didn't try to plug my son? So,
but if you slide this piece of paper across the desk and say, hire this Kenneth.
Maybe you get a discount on your advertising this year. I'm just saying.
So now we got to get Schmitz and McConnell shirts.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. That was nice. Rita and thanks. Sharon, have a wonderful day. It was
a good show.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. So next week, reminder, it's going to be my favorite show of the year. It's probably the most boring show for everybody else, but I love it. We're going to be going over your last year's numbers and the comparisons. You said you're going to be releasing that sometime later this week. We'll put that on our website so other people can look through it, and then I can kind of come up with a whole bunch of questions and stuff for next week. I can't wait. We'll be having some other guests coming on shortly after that as well. We talked about at the beginning of the show, so if you missed it, just watch the replay. We talked about some 3 guests that'll be joining us in the next 6 weeks. Yep. Awesome. That's all I got, man.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good week.
All right. Thank you. For Barron County Sheriff Chris Fitzgerald, I'm Ben Dryden, and you've been watching Positive Tuesday with Ben and Fitzy, presented by Professional Exteriors and Interiors. With 20 years of experience, this locally owned and operated business provides quality work both on the inside and on the outside of your home or business. Like Fitzy and I, they believe it's the little things that make a big difference. Give them a call today. Number's right there on the screen, 715-520-2271. Fitzy and I are taking a 6-day, 23-hour, and 15-minute break. So until next week, thank you for watching, and as always, have a blessed day.